Okay. Hey guys, welcome to our late August Tech Bite. Can't believe we're 2/3 of the way through the year. Hope everybody's having a great summer and that it'll keep going a little longer if we can get there. So today's topic is Maestro. Um, I'm actually surprised it's taken us this long to get to Maestro. I guess that's my own fault, but yeah, I think this is a very cool topic. I think it's a cool topic for both customers and partners, so it'll apply to pretty much everybody who's on the call. Um, it addresses a really interesting um, need in the industry and really has a lot of use cases. So let's kick off here. There it goes. So according to uh, Cisco, traffic, like internet traffic coming from a data center and through a network, doubles every 3 years. It goes up 25% year over year. Now, I know that's not every single environment, of course, but on average, according to Cisco, your network utilization goes up 25% a year, which is really crazy to think about. Um, so rapid growth, right? Things moving around. We need a solution that can respond to that, right? Something that would fit businesses of all size, something that can scale, right? Because if literally we're doubling our traffic every 3 years, then we really need to size our appliances, our firewalls, and other ones um, to meet that, right? If you want to have a firewall for 5 years, you need to size it, pushing 3 to 4 times the size that you need today, which is, getting out there. It's getting a little crazy. So we need to scale, right? Resiliency, right? We want to be up all the time. Availability, no downtime, and maximizing our cost efficiency, right? And to that, we came up with Maestro. So you see here in this picture, and this is the only reason I kept this slide. We have at the bottom two generic checkpoint firewalls. I don't know what model they are. It kind of doesn't matter. Two regular old firewalls from Check Point, and we have this Maestro orchestrator, which, as you'll see in the next few slides, is the guy doing all the distribution and thinking, right? So what is this orchestrator? What is Maestro, right? So traffic is received from an untrusted network, aka the internet in most situations. It distributes that traffic to the appliances, right? So it load balances which one is doing the, security features, right? The threat prevention, as well as the access control. Um, and then once finished, traffic is forwarded to the trusted network, right? So the idea here is that these guys, the orchestrator, will take the traffic that comes in and split it up evenly amongst these different firewalls, right? So what you'll see here, and I clicked one too many times, of course, is that because we can now aggregate the power of multiple checkpoint firewalls, we have the ability to keep scaling, right? And scale quickly, right? So one of these 16600 appliances, according to this slide, does 17.6 gigabit threat prevention, right? But if you add a second one via Maestro, we've got double that throughput capability, right? So that covers that growth we were talking about. And should you grow beyond that, we just add another one. And what's interesting to see and important is that when you add a gateway, it takes you 6 minutes to add it to an existing Maestro setup. So you see, we want to add more and more and more. It's fun animation. And via these 16600s, you can get up to 850 gigabit per second, which is talking. I've never seen that myself, but who knows? So we have security at hyperscale, right? On-demand expansion available to gateways of all sizes. It opens up new and simple ways to architect and manage cybersecurity for large networks, large data loads, and delivers the highest standard of resiliency and telco grade technology. Maybe a few of you are familiar with the chassis based checkpoint setup where we've had for years the 61,000s and 64,000s appliance. Not that different of a concept from this, but definitely a very different architecture, a very different solution. So I know at least some of you must be saying, okay, so it's great that you can get up to 850 gigabits. I'm never going to get there. Um, how does this apply to me, right? Well, the other thing that Maestro gives us is what we kind of call hypersync, right? Um, a different style of clustering or high availability, as Check Point calls it, right? And you see here that with two orchestrators, right? So redundancy at the orchestrator level, you can have high availability, be highly available with these firewalls. And what we actually recommend, you see it right here, is the N+1 deployment, which is our fancy way of saying that if you need 3 of this model firewall to take care of your traffic needs, add one more. So make it so even though you need 3, put 4, right? And then if one dies, it blows a power supply, blows a hard drive, or whatever happens, you still have the other 3 sitting here running. There's no slowdown, there's no bottlenecking, there's no failover issues, there's no sync to be kept between the 2 cluster members. There's no HA issues, none of that, right? This is straightforward. These machines are redundant to each other, right? And you're using all this hardware, right? So on a normal run, and this is the next slide. There you go, a little animation for you. Uh, in the old way, and the way that most of us still do today, we still do this quite often with new customers too. The standard clustering is if this machine does 1 gigabit and this machine does 1 gigabit, you have 1 gigabit, right? Because one is active and one is passive. And this is maintaining the passive one is maintaining copies of the connections, copies of the sessions, etc., for when the failover happens. But in Maestro, if you have, 2 of them, it's 2 gigabit. 1 plus 1 equals 2. And if you have 3 of them, 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. So Maestro allows us to utilize effectively the power that we purchase. And so, that's, one of the core concepts that, is important to understand is that we aggregate and we also have the ability to do this different way of high availability. How does Maestro actually do this stuff, right? How do we apply this balancing, etc.? We do it through what we call security groups. And I know security groups is also a very important term on the cloud and other places as well. But we do it through security groups. So literally, you can choose a set of interfaces, right? Or a set of appliances to form a logical group and then make policy based on those groups and treat them as a single entity, right? So you can have up to 8 security groups. It looks like this. This is right in the web UI. If you're familiar, you can see this is the orchestrator machine, and right here you can assign gateways to a security group, or you could assign specific interfaces to a security group. So we're going to actually see it in a video here in the presentation. So he makes his group, he adds his IP address, and now he's just literally putting those first 2 gateways into that group and specific interfaces within. It's that easy to make a security group. Now he's going to make a second one. I don't know if we really need to see him make a second one, but he's going to make a second one. and he goes ahead and makes his own group and adds the interfaces, adds the firewalls, and then hits apply when he's done. That's it. Now, the other thing, and I mentioned those chassis-based solutions that we had in the past. Maestro, unlike those, is on the current builds of Gaia. So Check Point Maestro works on R81. It should say R8120 here, as that's the currently recommended version. But the scalable platforms use the same code. What does that mean? That means that any new feature that comes out, you can get it on a Maestro setup immediately. You don't have to wait for it to be ported over to the other style, the other edition of the code. Also, any sort of hot fixes, any sort of jumbos, any sort of whatevers, they're all readily available, um, easily used on Maestro as soon as they come out. Um, so some recent things with Maestro, because we've actually had this solution probably about 2.5 years now, maybe a little more. Some of the newer things in R8110, and I realize I just said we're now in R8120. There's probably a few other things that's got to get added, but in R8110, you have the ability to mix and match, right? So you can connect multiple different gateways to the same security group, right? So you could literally have a 5600 and a 6200 and a 16200. All those could be in the same security group now with R8110. You can sync the Maestro configuration without the need for an extra security gateway and cutover. The orchestrator has been aligned with the modern version of R8110. And we have multiple VPN features we've added in. So you can mix and match appliances. You see in this picture, right? He's got some older appliance, some older large appliances, these ones with the screens, right? These are the previous generation. Then he's got some newer ones here, right? And you can mix the appliances. You can add new models when they come released, right? So you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I have a whole rack full of 5600s with this Maestro, but now they don't make 5600s. So what do? You just add a 6600 or whatever is appropriate. Continue growing when the current hardware models are end of support. Flexible hardware upgrades. You can change these models on the fly. So when these guys come to total end of support, literally purchase a new firewall, swap the new one in, and in 6 minutes you're up and going. That machine, you're never going to be down, but that machine will be up and going. It's that quick. It's that efficient like that. So once again, you can scale in minutes with Maestro, scale without any downtime. It is cost efficient and uses the horsepower that you purchased more readily and more often, but all the time. So Maestro, in closing, the only hyperscale solution in the market. It scales in minutes with no downtime and gives you that telco grade level of resiliency. So that is my presentation on Maestro. Do we have any questions? And I'm looking at the chat section. Of course, if you wish to raise your hand and speak, that's fine too. I'll unmute you. So one question, can this be managed via the cloud? Yes, the Smart One Cloud can manage the security features of it's the same management style, right? So it's the same management. I guess that's a good point too. It's the same architecture that we've always had, right? You have a management appliance somewhere separate from the firewalls themselves. So yeah, you can use the cloud, you could use a VM, you could use a smart one appliance, whatever fits your needs the best. Good question. So can it be eval or POCed? Good question. Yes, we can certainly get you gear to do a proof of concept of this if you have a opportunity for Maestro. We got another one here that says the question is um, kind of an interesting one. Can this be, can Maestro be utilized with the new Lightspeed appliances, which if you're not super familiar with those are super accelerated firewall only, very fast for large financials and stuff like that. And the answer is yes. You can use a Maestro to aggregate those and come up with insane speeds. I can't even imagine what they would be. I would have to look into what the limit of the orchestrator is, but yeah, they can work with those as well. I got another one that says, what, no demo today? Yeah, unfortunately, I have no demo today. Unfortunately, I don't really have an environment that I could show you for this particular session. The truth of the matter is that as far as like a demo goes, there's not a whole lot to demo. You saw that little video where he was adding the interfaces to the security groups. The day-to-day security management is the same as it is for any other checkpoint firewall. Um, so while we can definitely do a POC, an eval, etc., uh, there's not a whole lot to demo, in this solution. Okay, so I got a couple more questions. So first one, what are the interface options with respect to the NIC interfaces, like 10 gig, 40 gig? The orchestrator has two different models. They have multiple interfaces on them, which can go up to 100 gig. And then another question, uh, will there be any working session or demo session planned in the future, like a deep dive? We certainly, I don't know of one off the top of my head to answer it straightforward. Um, there are, we do a variety of events with demos, with hands-on, with stuff like that. Certainly at any sort of CPX event, but also we do a lot of things through checkmates and stuff like that. Um, and also if you want to, if you really want to get a hands-on and get a feel for this solution, reach out, reach out to us, let us know. We'd be happy to, work on that, set that up for you. And, you can, really get your hands on it. Hope that answers that question. Good questions, guys. Okay, I'll hang another minute or so. If there's any more questions that roll in, I'd be happy to answer them. But if not, you guys welcome to hop off it as you please. Thank you so much for attending. Really looking forward to seeing you next month, and we'll have a next session then. And of course, if you have any feedback, any questions about Maestro, any suggestions for a next TechByte session, then yeah, please send them forward. And thank you very much, guys. Appreciate your time.